Okay, so someone asked, when you complete a room, when you find all the hidden objects, how do you move on to the next room? So, I believe I mentioned in a previous video that when you have a collection of functions, a collection of task events that are going to occur that are related, you create what's known as a scene, and this particular scene is called room. So basically you've dropped a whole bunch of images and scripts into an area, and you go up to File and you choose Save Scene, and you create a scene. Well, your application as a whole is made up of multiple scenes. So the short answer is you simply need how to create more scenes, and that completion of one scene triggers the loading of another. Now, more than likely what you're going to do is you're actually going to have, like, say this is taking place in a house and there's multiple rooms, then you really want an inside of the house to navigate in, or maybe you're outside and so you need, like, images of gardens or walkways or forests or whatever. But the bottom line is you need a bunch of areas that do not have hidden objects that you just travel through. So in short, we need to create a new scene. So let's go up to File and go to New Scene. Now you haven't lost everything. That's still right here in Room. We're just looking at a new scene. So this image I dragged and dropped into the project at some point because I was planning on doing something like this and then just never got around to it. So let's drag and drop this into the area. So let's just move this over, and that actually fits nicely. So you're in a house, and each room will have a hidden object. So, well, a hidden object area is what I should say. So what you need to do is you really need to create collider areas for each door, and when you click on that door, when you click on that collider object, there's a script that says, okay, load this scene or load a different scene. So let's go ahead and look at that. So we're going to create game object, create empty, and we'll call this left door. Now, even though it's not the image of the left door, functionally that's how we're going to use it. So we're going to move it there, click on Add Component, click on Physics 2D, click on Box Collider. And now we just need to expand the size of that. That way it encompasses most of the door. Click on that again, and there we go. Now what we're going to do is it needs to be set as a trigger. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to add a script that says what happens when you click on that door. So, I already have a script here called Open Doors. So let's take a look at that. So if you want to do that from scratch, you right click, you choose Create, you choose C#, and then you can call it Open Doors. So let's just double click to see what that looks like. Because as I mentioned, I was thinking about doing this before and then never got around to it. So, when you click on an object, okay, a couple of things are necessary. One, it needs to have a collider box. Two, it needs to be set as a trigger. We've done that. So to detect the clicks on the collider box, you use something that's known as on mouse down. So outside, let me zoom in a little bit more. Outside of Start, outside of Update, it's its own routine called on mouse down. Okay? And basically, you're just going to check to see what the name of the object is that you're clicking on. So, again, this script is going to be attached to the door. Okay? So, when it's saying, okay, what's GameObject.name, that's going to return the name of the object the script is attached to. Well, the script is attached to various objects. It's going to be attached to at very least 2 doors. This one's called left door. So, if GameObject.name is left door, then this variable, well, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And we'll just use Scene Manager. Now, Scene Manager is something new to Unity 5. Okay, if you're using Unity 4, this won't work. Probably should update to 5 if you're at the beginning of a new program anyways. And to make Scene Manager work even in Unity 5, you have to add this line. Because by default, this isn't here for whatever bizarre reason. So even though changing scenes is really an essential part of Unity, I can't imagine making an application that only has one scene, and yet for some reason, by default, this is not here. So these two by default are here, this one is not. So you need to add this to make this work. So void on mouse down. If GameObject.name equals left door, then SceneManager.loadScene is room. Okay, so save that. We're going left door is highlighted, and we're going to drag and drop open doors onto it. So what's going to happen is when we click on that, it's going to load that. So we run it. Actually, that's not going to work yet. Let me check File, Build Settings. The scenes have to be loaded for it to work. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do add current scene, like right there it says add open scene, or you can just drag and drop them. So nothing is here, so it won't work. So File, Save Scene As, and we'll call it Hallway, and we'll save it in the Hidden Object folder. Okay, so let's go back. File, Build Settings, drag and drop Hallway, drag and drop Room. So when you build the application, both of these will be included. Now what's going to happen is when you click on this, it will load the room. Just like that. So now you know how to navigate from one area to another. But that's only half the request. The other request is how do you exit out. So we'll get to that in a minute. So we'll copy this, we'll paste this, we'll call this right door. It already has the script attached to it because I just copied it the other door. Now we drag and drop that object over to the right door. Okay. Go back to our script. So this is for the left door. This is for the right door. So right door. So on mouse down. So if the mouse is clicked on the object that this script is attached to, and the name of that object that the script is attached to that's being clicked on is called right door, then you want to load something else. Now I use the same name, so it'll just load the same room, but that's just a start to make sure it works. So click, click, and there you go. So let's now save this, go back to room. Now one of the things that you can do, okay, is you can reuse a scene. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can actually have the same scene change what is displayed based on certain variables, or you can just outright save the scene as a new name and now you have a duplicate. So that's what we're going to do. We'll save this as room 2. Okay, so now we have room 2, and hallway. So we want room 2 to differentiate from room 1. So what we're going to do is, just so we can tell the difference, we're going to delete the bag. Save it. Go back to our code. Change it to room 2. And then add room 2 to the build. Sorry if I'm kind of jumping around. This kind of thing is never really clean because it gets into the build of the application itself, because the load just does not work if you don't have these put into the build. So we run it. Oops, sorry. Go to the hallway is where we want to be. So now if we click on the left door, it should get us to room. If we click on the right door, it should get us to room 2. How can we tell? Because the backpack is missing. So we click on that, There's the backpack. Click on that, no backpack. So you now have two entirely different rooms. And what you can do is you can just like click on the objects and like replace whatever image they are. So, you know, like you could click on the gem object, that kind of thing, and replace it with whatever image you want it to be. So now, we're almost there. We want to go back to, is it click control? Okay. So remaining items. So this is going to have to be set when you enter a room. And we actually do that because right here in the start area, we do set it right there. Remaining items equals 9. So, for sake of argument, let's say there's only 3 items. You find 3, and then you can exit. So what we want to do is we want to use that same code from Open Doors that says Scene Manager. Okay. So let's see the best place to do this. I believe, so this is on mouse down, so let's do it here. So remaining items equals 3. Alright. So in the on mouse down section of click control, if remain items equals 0, because it gets depreciated every time you click on an item, then we're going to do 2 things. First, the top here, as I mentioned, it doesn't by default have this. So in click control, we'll put this here, and then we'll do this. So if remaining items is equal to 0, then you really want to leave the scene, and this will be, I believe I called it hallway. So load hallway. And so this answers the question that was asked. How do you load a scene when you have found all the items? So you basically have to have the static variable that's tracking all the items be reduced to 0, and then you check to see if it's at 0, and then you use Scene Manager load scene to load whatever the next scene is. And now this should be complete. And I forgot an equal sign like I always do. So we click on that, and I said that there's only 3, so if we click on that, there we go. So there were still more hidden objects, but that's because I reduced it to only 3 just so you didn't have to see me click on everything. So there you go. So as a recap, to be able to go from one scene to another when the amount of hidden objects have been found is we've already been decreasing the remaining items. So you simply have to check for remaining items to be 0, and you have a scene manager that says load the next scene. So I kind of took a very roundabout way to say it. Because unfortunately it's not just that easy. Like I said, the scenes have to be added to the build, and that's just another part of the development process which I really haven't gone into in any of my videos yet. But so you have to add the scenes to the build, and then you have to have the code that says load the scene. So as you saw, that worked, and actually we'll do the other door as well. So we click on that, and you can see we're in the other room because there's no backpack. So click, 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 and that brings me out. Okay, so that should do it. If there's any more questions, just let me know. Sorry this was kind of a quick, haphazard one, but it was a pretty simple question. So.